Now we are going to go through panel number 5. And
Yes, and I'd like for the rest to stay on board and stay involved if possible. Sorry, go ahead.
Sure. Okay. So panel number 4, panel number 5 will be with with Nena Dokuzov, Frederic Kastner, and Kilian and Gerard. If you want to stay, of course, you are the welcome. So for panel number 5, the topics is actually connecting cities, the future of Lesvos, the future of Europe. We intend sharing about insights about the amazing initiatives and organizations across Europe that are focusing on social entrepreneurship. The aim of this panel is to showcase how we can use social entrepreneurship as a tool for addressing social challenges by building networks of co-working spaces / community building organizations through which we can embrace social tech entrepreneurship, digital skills, and hold dialogues / knowledge exchange as to how we can together solve social challenges, establishing best practices, celebrating European way of life, and inspiring the future of Europe we want. And for this panel, as I said, we have the following speakers. I'm going to, so Fred just joined us, so please welcome to Fred. To thank you for participating in our summit.
Thank you, Arthur.
Yeah. As Fred asked me, he would like to, Vasily, could you give a very brief overview of what we have been talking? And I hope this panel description has been helping you, Fred. And before that, I'm going to introduce Fred very quickly. So Frederic Kastner is a London-based social entrepreneur and international development consultant with 8 years experience in leading and managing inclusive incubators, social enterprises, and blended learning programs in urban rural context. He currently focuses on 2 approaches to tackling forced migration issues. 1, enabling refugees through the power of their own ideas. 2, making the next generation of citizens more informed. Welcome, Fred, to this summit.
Thanks, Arthur. And yeah, thank you everyone for having me. I hope I'm audible. I'm on the phone outside, so there'll be certain noises, etc. So I apologize for that in advance. But it seems like you can hear me okay from looking at Arthur.
Yes.
So that's good. Yeah, so thanks for the introduction. Vasily and I are connected through various summits and conferences around the topic of refugee entrepreneurship and refugee-led innovation, and that's kind of my specialism. So it's great to hear a little bit what you guys were saying for the last half hour. In terms of the organization, I'll give you a quick roundup of our organization, what we've done so far, and other contexts in which I've worked, and how refugee-led innovation has certainly taken place in those projects. And then we can have questions and answers. It'll be easier for me to have your questions and answer those than kind of just ramble about, seeing as I wasn't able to participate in the rest of the summit. So I'll start with a short introduction, and then I look forward to the other panelists' contributions as well as your questions. So I started this work specifically in refugee entrepreneurship about 6 years ago. So before there was more blended learning space and international development. And essentially what I realized is, whilst working for the UN Refugee Agency, that a lot of innovation was often stifled, bottom-up innovation was stifled because of a local competition to refugee-led innovation from people who were basically running the local social care systems in East Africa. And so my impression was at the time that a lot of potential was lost. A lot of amazing people were already displaying multiple years of leadership experience in their communities, refugees, helping refugees essentially. And they had great ideas, and with the right kind of support, they would be able to contribute to a landscape of support, both for themselves and the rest of the local host area. And but I observed whilst working in those contexts that there was a lot of contextual barriers and attitudes that weren't making it easy. Obviously, as most of you will know, most international development interventions that benefit refugees also need to benefit the host communities. Um, so in that sense, there is technically a branching off of funds, and I know funds were mentioned earlier in the discussion, to serve refugees and then also serve host communities, so for the distribution. But I do think that nonetheless, there's not always an enabling environment, vice versa, and a cooperation uh, beyond anecdotes. So what I mean by that is often there are great examples of people who want to collaborate on a local basis, but then not necessarily the holistic approach, such that it takes hold, gets rooted, and becomes part of local practices. So it's about, you know, the fact that such cultures are seldomly established is my impressions. When I later started working on Turn in particular, which is our social enterprise that runs incubation support from A to Z, really, for refugees in the UK and elsewhere who want to start their own business or social enterprise. We had this in mind, but it took us years to establish. So this idea of establishing more of a co-creation and a refugee-led approach was always on my mind, but it took us years to establish the motor of our operation to really learn how to deliver to our target group well. But in the process of establishing our programs and running them all for 4 times now, we've got 3 distinct programs, and happy to elaborate later. We realized that the wonderful effect was that we were getting so much talent that was informed on a meta level about refugee entrepreneurship, who had gone through the experience of developing their own enterprises, but who also wanted to become leaders in our operations. Sorry for the background noise. In terms of that's the common reality now. But in terms of so what we were seeing now, and I think in our 4th year with Turn in particular, towards the end of our 4th year, we now really have an amazing set of leaders, people who indeed have come up with their own innovations. Many have a social impact idea. All of them have a desire to initially help other refugees to become kind of the face of the franchise for Turn. That's a transformation that's about to happen. And so it does take time sometimes, because you first need to deliver value, identify the right people, and then work with them to become the leaders of tomorrow. That's kind of my experience. That's the side of refugee-ledness, but now we're working a lot on that. So our system is becoming increasingly refugee-led. We've got an objective for 2023 to have all of our operations, strategy, and directorship be 51% refugee-led. So that's an intentional 1% above 50. So I think you can do the math. So this is not about majority or anything like that in democratic sense, although it might well be that that's how it ends up. It's more a goalpost, a lighthouse to walk towards, and increasingly increasingly improve how much refugees are involved in delivering our programs, in setting our strategy and refining what we do, and not just to be treated as community outreach champions, which is important, but it's just a basic step. So that's one side of the story. The other side is European collaboration, and actually 2 more points, I guess. Co-working, and Arthur, please stop me if I should first take questions. Co-working and local collaboration and integration with community spaces around entrepreneurship and ideas. We've got a strong collaboration with WeWork, who have been really good to us, I must say, who've provided our community access to free space, co-working space. They've also given us access to free workshop space, and we're actually locking in with their membership community, who become mentors. They don't make our entire mentor pool, but about 20% of our mentor pool for our programs. We also use WeWorks whenever there's no lockdown as a launch space for ideas, because it's quite a healthy environment to expose your ideas as an entrepreneur when it's other small businesses around you, because they tend to be frank but also understanding. They're a bit more forgiving than the average consumer when you expose your product or your service at an event or one-to-one, and tend to be experienced in their feedback. So that's really wonderful for entrepreneurs. It's also an ecosystem where entrepreneurs can offer their products B2B. And it's potentially even an opportunity for offering part-time employment with other SMEs, where newcomer entrepreneurs can learn skills in internships or in part-time employment. That's kind of a vision we haven't fulfilled yet, but it's something I'd really love to do. So that's how we work with WeWork. But actually, obviously, WeWork is in a lot of places, but not everywhere. And with regards to understanding how much can a local co-working space community support similar interventions, certainly not as much in kind or pro bono as WeWork can, obviously, right? So with the magnitude of actors changes the ability to do in-kind things, I guess. So you're more challenged in a local community like Lesvos, I guess, with regards to finding commercially viable solutions. So the smaller it gets, the more business oriented and financially viable it needs to be. I guess, the more you are a small fish that's adept at swimming between the big fish, great for you in a big city. But if you're in a small city, then you're not that much smaller than the medium size or big fish, because there's not enormous actors in a relatively small community. So I think there it becomes much more compressed space, and people have more financial needs. So it must be hard. So I don't have an immediate solution for that, besides being really good at design thinking, business models, and putting them in practice quickly without too long cycles when it comes to building cooperations with local communities, with local businesses in the co-working and enterprise community, when it comes to solutions like what you seem to have in mind as a collective. So that's another aspect, yeah. And then I guess that kind of interlocks with cooperation with the local community. I think whether it's co-working spaces, small businesses, in the end, if people are not well established yet themselves, then you have to find a triple win, really, to make things work. So I'm happy to elaborate on the European questions and such. Perhaps it's a good time I'm not sure if the other speakers will come in as well, or if there's other speakers for the panel now. So I'll pause here for a second, take questions, happy to elaborate on anything I've said, or just to debate and discuss. I appreciate it might be a bit out of context, but I just wanted to share my experience.
Fred, thank you. That was absolutely awesome. And I would like if you could just for a few more minutes before I give the floor to Nina, if you could just elaborate and just share a little bit more information about the European projects, because this is actually one of the main reasons that what I wanted to discuss is from a European context of people doing amazing things around Europe and how we could be connected. And there's a project that Nina may touch on that could be connected. So you sharing some information would add additional value. And yeah, then I'll just share something with about George Bellinga, who you actually connected me to after you share this information.
Sure, Vasily. Yes. In fact, I'm happy to. I don't know if I put my video on, if it will take my bandwidth. I look like a bit of a teenager here, but that's okay. So look, in terms of European projects, we actually have various. Some are EU funded, some are not. That's the wonder of it, right? So instead of being necessarily tied to EU funding alone, we also have some which are not, but they are still European. I know some of you probably know about the Human Safety Net, for example. We're not part of that, but that would be an example of a corporate funded project that has touched on refugee innovation and refugee-led or refugee enterprise. if I can say it as bluntly, for a few years now. We're not part of that, not by design or default. I don't think the UK is a priority area for them, but a lot of our partners like Singer Germany, Singer France are in it. And that's just an example of a project that's European in nature. It's been quite interesting, I would say. I think in the European space of entrepreneurship and innovation, there's a whole set of actors who are quite commercially oriented despite a social focus. And so because the organizations have been around for a long time, they're now seeking new endeavors. So Impact Hub, Youth Business International as two major networked actors are looking to move into the space of refugee entrepreneurship, as I would say is Spark. There are two Sparks in the world. Well, two main Sparks and then many offshoots. I mean the one in the Netherlands, which has a lot of international work and also works in entrepreneurship. So those three actors are moving in. And that is not yet complete. So they've just conducted a lot of research. JP Morgan is currently conducting a study to find out who the actors are in newcomer entrepreneurship in Italy, Germany, the UK, Sweden. I'm just giving you a roundup of projects of some we are a part of and some we're not. We are certainly in touch with everyone somehow, but it's not yet a very consolidated space. What I'm trying to say is even commercial actors, there's CSR, and then mid-sized to large-sized social impact actors that are networked and have some inkling of connectivity with entrepreneurship at the very least are now strongly moving into the space of migrant and refugee-led entrepreneurship. So that's interesting. That's a pivot for a lot of them. Or a new target group. On the other hand, we've got smaller, more self-organized collaborations. So we have a strong network with Delight Labs in Amsterdam and Rotterdam, with Singer France and Singer Berlin, with Place in Paris, also with Entrepreneur du Monde in Lyon. Singer has connections into Italy, in Switzerland, and I think now Spain as well, where they also have setups. And so in those cases, it's been very informal, self-organized, and never financed just for the sake of those strategies that we would want to develop together. So that's a really interesting point. I'll try and construct like a whole picture here, because that's kind of a counter example. Here's bottom-up, grassroots or mid-sized people who've worked in this industry for a few years, which is relatively long in the case of, say, refugee innovation, refugee entrepreneurship in Europe. I'm not saying there aren't actors who haven't done this for, who have done this for 20 years. There are people, but from the newer breed of people from the refugee crisis in 2015, the bubble that came out of that and turned and kind of emerged around then, or at least when it comes to support. Those actors are actually relatively well connected, and some of the more mid to long standing actors are now very networked. It's now the first time that we are talking about actually setting out a strategy together rather than just kind of randomly connecting to opportunities. And I think that is really key, because we have always followed funding opportunities to scale the program of one organization elsewhere. And I'll give you a more concrete example on that in a second. But holistically, what do we want? What do we want? Both micro and macro for Europe. That is something that we haven't really set out. We have a lot of common principles, but we haven't put the work in. So we're now thinking about kind of getting a little secretariat for ourselves as a small group. I don't mean this to be kind of like an exclusive club. It's just kind of starting small, working, kind of spiraling upwards in numbers, So that's one side. In the middle are things like, so do you mean like, shall I ask questions to the group or? Sorry, Vasily, you muted. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just saying, let's hold it there just to get the group back on track here. I just want to add a little bit of context. Yep. Is that okay? Or do you want to finish up what you were saying right there now?
I just wanted to say, Wasila, just two things. As another two examples that you can ask some follow-up questions on, guys, is one is we have 2 or 3 European Union funded projects, and happy to elaborate on those later. Also on the positives and negatives of these different angles to collaboration. And then also we've got a project which we've scaled ourselves, which is a collaboration with Ben & Jerry's, where we've taken a program into 4 countries. and that's been repeated 3 times over. So it wasn't just a project, and that's called the ICE Academy. So I'm happy to elaborate on any of those. But yeah, over to you and the group.
Thank you very much, Fred. So yeah, I had the pleasure of being at your space and see your work, and it's really very inspiring. I just wanted to say, but George Belingo for the thing is based in Basque Country, and they're doing some similar initiatives through a co-working space. And the program, from a social economy perspective, from a European-wide perspective, the discussion with George, and we were speaking to the local university there and to some of the people in the government, of saying how can spaces in other cities, regions, say that if asylum seekers come to the city, how can they be, inverted commas, integrated into society? And we're saying that co-working spaces should be used as such. Fred, who just spoke now, said about their partnership at WeWork, and it's incredible the interaction that takes place at WeWork, the volunteers that come and support them. So you're in a comfortable environment that local people are in, such as WeWork, and they come into contact with asylum seekers, and it's like people are naturally wanting to help and support, versus a place that's just refugees away from the local community, and the local people are like, yeah, that's for refugees. And so this is basically some of the discussions that we want to be able to highlight and exchange what works in every region in the context of the social economy. And some of these are the great organizations on the ground. How do we connect them to the top? And again, I keep on saying about the social economy because, and as Gerard said, we want to have support from the top, and this could sit well within that ambit of the social economy and Mannheim, where we could actually go there and take the next steps. No, the next steps now, but actually concretely show what we've done in the process till then. And with that, I'd like to give it over to Nina to share some thoughts. And on Nina, if you could touch on the European project or whatever you feel you want to share with us.
Okay, thank you again. Thank you for this presentation. The first one, it was also my first contact with social economy when I went to Great Britain, and we had 2-3 days learning about social economy, and then it was very helpful to start with social economy in Slovenia as well. So I know that they have very good examples. But what we did on the European level, in 2015, we started to create a report. It was a report from expert group for social economy. It was created by DG Growth and 3 more DGs and national representatives and the representatives from different organizations and so on. So we created a report, and this report gave us 4 main recommendations: how to raise visibility and awareness of social economy, how to create the supporting environment, how to create legal environment, and how to connect internationally. And one of the main messages of that report, and after that of the conference we had in Ljubljana on social economy, was that different regions have to be treated equally when with regard on access to money. Okay, so the programs shall be adjusted in a way that will put in equal position all the stakeholders of the social economy area in Europe and wider. On the other hand, 6 countries, 4 of them were most advanced in social economy at that time. This was Luxembourg, France, Spain, and Italy, and also Slovenia and some other smaller countries that were recognized as highly advanced in social economy, we created a monitoring committee of Luxembourg Declaration, because in the same time as that report was created, we created also that monitoring committee, and Greece joined as well. I think that the representative state secretary of Ministry of Labor at that time was a very active participant. So she helped us to create a strong policy on social innovation and social economy. And existing current commissioner of social economy was a minister in Luxembourg government responsible for social and solidarity economy. So there was a strong connection and network of that countries. And first presidency, we have rotating presidency. So first presidency was dedicated to Luxembourg, and then to Spain. And when Spain took over the presidency, it was an idea to nominate the social economic capital for this year. I will explain a little bit how we came to European social economy regions, you know. And we decided after that every year one of the cities, not necessarily the capital of each member state, but the city in member state which is most visible from the point of view of social economy shall be appointed as a capital. So in the year 2018, when Slovenia had the presidency, we nominated Maribor. This is the second largest city in Slovenia as a capital of social economy. And after that, it was Strasbourg. And this was the case of the conference and so on. So I'm not very sure that Mannheim will be nominated as a capital, because Spain has the presidency now, but during Corona and so on, the activities postponed. And I'm not sure, but in 2018, European Commission started piloting project European social economy regions. It didn't finance anything, but it gave us very strong support in promoting social economy across Europe. And the second round, and they are repeating that call for social economic capitals and regions every year. With this regard, now during Corona, they have every Tuesday from 10:30 to 12. I will send you the link. They are presenting different cases, different issues, how the communities can be organized or connected to become self-independent, to self-sufficient, okay, and to organize, for example, supply of food or some facilities during the quarantine time, and how to give the access to people to different stakeholders, how they tackle that coronavirus issues. So this is one thing. The other thing is that we were talking about the letter of Mr. Schmidt last time, but I will finish with this first. After that, or in the same time with that report that was made by Commission and Member States, European Investment Fund developed 3 pilot programs for social economy. One of the pillars was social economy business angels. Yeah, and this is more or less financing equity capital for social economy enterprises, for social innovations, for the projects with the social impact. The second is social business accelerator. And it would be very helpful if the program still exists. It would be very helpful for exactly for this, what we are talking about today, the whole day. Maybe we shall stress the possibilities, how we can establish this, or how we can help in establishing this to you, and then how to start to build that international community that can attract different stakeholders from other countries, European and non-European also. It is not limited, yeah. And the third thing, there were social impact bonds for project in a very high maturity level, so ready to be financed. Yeah, I have to smile now. And I think that it should be stressed as well. What we are trying to establish, we have Slovenian Croatian Fund for social impact, social economy, and also for technologies with the human principles. Okay, for sustainable development, for the 3 pillars of sustainability: economic, social, and environmental. And we created a fund that can support the beneficiaries, half financed by our national envelope and half financed by EIF. So the difference between other source of supporting environment and this is that it requires the founder has the knowledge about the social impact, about measurement of the social impact, about monitoring of social impact, and it requires the manager of the fund or the staff of the management board to support the company in all stages of development, from startup phase to each phase to the exit of the project. So this is minimizing the risk of loss, because we know that the social economy enterprises have high risk of loss. And it also helps to lower interest rates, you know, because it's usually that interest rates for social economy enterprises for lending are very high because of that risk. But if you have a support of a mentor during whole lifetime of the project to the exit, then it minimizes the risk, and then interest rate can be lower. And on the other side, now there is another that GEC has finished its work, but now Commission established another multi-stakeholder platform, and it will be also intended to prepare the action plan for the future programming period, for the future mandate of the parliament, and so on. So I suggest also, if we agree today to create a kind of message or starting point or declaration, or maybe 3 bullet points, what we want to achieve in accordance to satisfy the European the conditions and also strategic orientations, but on the other hand, to give the solution to local issues and to strengthen the local communities. One of the things is maybe also that co-working spaces can serve also as a community managers that can concentrate the knowledge and that can concentrate the actions from different stakeholders of the community. So maybe this would be the chance to start to cooperate with Europe in this way.
Beautiful. That is amazing. Thank you very much, Nina, for that very informative and amazing presentation, sharing all those thoughts with us.
Thank you.
So you said 3 points, Nina. Can you send an example to us that we can share with everyone, just in terms of what you feel would be required, just as a template, if you like, unless other people are familiar with what's required. But if you can share with us what we need to work around, that we can look to each one contribute to it, and so that we can go and put that forward.
Yeah, but I suggest first to summarize today's debates, all the debates, to point out, okay, maybe a call to European Commission to support creating the local community networks, which help to rise the skills, to rise the knowledge, and to activate participation of different stakeholders in the communities, so that the communities can become more resilient and more self-sufficient, or something like this. And the other thing would be, we call the European Commission to create tailor-made instruments for supporting of the social economy enterprises, or social tech supporting environments, which can contribute to strengthening the collaboration and anything else. Okay, just like cases which are focused in this, what we talked today. Maybe this would be a kind of message. Huh?
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you, Nina. Thoughts from anyone? We've had two awesome presentations, so just some thoughts or questions from Gerard or Killian or Fred. Some comments, anyone?
Waiting for now.
Well, Nina, I want to add, you mentioned about co-working spaces as well. Gerard also mentioned earlier that we need urgent action. We've got challenges across Europe based on misunderstandings and or misconceptions. So, I think it's urgent that through co-working spaces that represent communities and can be implemented certain programs, that we have initiatives that support locals and asylum seekers, projects like Turn. That network already exists. So and there's various networks, and Fred touched on two of the ones that he's working with. So how can we get that support? So again, when an asylum seeker comes into a country, or a refugee comes into a city, they don't know, even if they may have had 10 businesses back home. They come into a city, they don't know where to go for any kind of support. So how could we say co-working spaces are the platforms that we go and run through, which we run programs? And the thing is, and we need to combine it with technology, and we need to do it as soon as possible because of the discourse, I guess, that's happening and the misinformation. So the social economy can actually be a catalyst for, the economy, in fact, but also solving real problems. So as a social economy that's not profit-driven, but purpose-driven, and having impact in society and really tackling the real hard issues, be it education, from digital skilling, when we can upskill people, and health technologies. But the main message, I think, is that we need, and the co-working spaces, generally speaking, the community leaders in there are generally influential people and very open-minded and focused on community building. And that would be the best platform where you could bring refugees into contact with locals to change the perception, so that the rest of Europe isn't scared of the 20,000 or 25,000 refugees in Lesvos, or even 150,000 that are in the whole of Greece, but that in fact sees this as an opportunity for them to bring these people into their cities and into their countries, because they are human capital. And so we can change the narrative and the discussions of how we go forward. And I want to add a last point right now. There is still some, and I don't know about the European Fund specifically, but in terms of the asylum seekers, there's so much money that they want to go and build whole new super. And there's also, on the other hand, because of COVID, there's hotels that are going to be empty this whole summer and are going to be empty for more than a year, arguably. Why can we not find some hotels, some cities, some villages, and I'm talking about outside Greece as well, that can say, we want 100 families, 50 families, or unaccompanied minors, or something that people, as a source of sustainability for themselves. The hotels are going to be empty. How can we start having those discussions that whole villages say, we want 50 people within our village, villages that people may have left, and there's whatever, that we can these villages that everyone left, we can revitalize them. That's the word that I'm looking for. And this is the opportunity, actually, that asylum seekers can provide. But more than that, they are prepared to work day and night to better their future. All we need to do is help them a little bit, and they'll do the rest for themselves. So it'll be great if we find a way of taking that on as a project linked to the direct thing that we've been discussing the whole time about Lesvos. But it's important to share the best practices and exchange ideas and knowledge. I mean, what I saw, what Turn is doing, and with WeWork and all the partners that they formed, is just mind-blowing. How many more Turns could there be in every city? So, and again, having it with locals and asylum seekers running these kind of programs. So I've gone off, but I will definitely be sending a proposal. So anyway, that's me. I'm finished. So any thoughts, concluding thoughts, I guess, from everyone?
Yeah, if I may come in here. I mean, this discussion, the last points you mentioned about the attractiveness, in fact, of having additional people and so on, and seeing them as an opportunity and so on. I mean, there are, of course, examples all over the world where this is happening. There is, for instance, the city of Brunswick in Canada, which actually went through a whole process of consultation with the population, and they decided collectively that they needed additional people because they needed taxpayers, basically. So they are proactively seeking for additional people, because somebody has to pay the taxes so that the potholes can be filled in the roads and stuff like this, and that social services continue and whatnot. So there are examples like that. I cannot sort of disclose more than that at this stage in public. We are in discussions with the Greek government on a solutions package, which includes, in fact, the settlement of let's say, people with a Remain perspective. I mean, obviously, people are divided into the ones who have an asylum perspective, have protection needs, and so on, and those who have less chances. So we're talking about a settlement option where municipalities could be encouraged, and it goes, we had that much earlier as well, of sort of where you have that sort of real benefit for a village or municipality or so, where there is additional action taking on. I must say, in that regard, we are sort of discussing to build up sort of a European support network to these municipalities, through municipalities elsewhere, which have expressed desire to do more on the migration space, companies ready to enhance trade or investment relations with such municipalities. There is an initiative actually by Gesine Schwan, who is a former German presidential candidate, in setting up a European fund in support of municipalities which are more open to reception of newcomers. That should be tapped on as well. So we're discussing in this solutions package for Greece this as an option. So these settlements, we also have an option there of setting up special economic zones. People actually providing a workforce for small and medium enterprises, providing a workforce for the industries, some sectors which have been sort of totally abandoned in Greece, such as the textile industry, which has nobody anymore. I mean, it has come down, but there are simply no people anymore skilled in that. So there's options around that. Another thing we also put into our package, which is obviously returns, a more active, proactive return support to individuals who have little or few perspectives to remain. But there again, there is a link to skills, to upskilling, to new technologies, coding and so on come to mind, obviously software engineer skills. And then there's also part of the package is labor migration, which is something we some of us don't really like, but also thinking about labor migration connectivity to third countries, not forcibly the European Union, training and equipping people with skills, entrepreneurial skills or technical skills, which could be used elsewhere, not forcibly in the European Union. But of course, keeping in mind that the future of the European in the European Union is actually moving more and more in direction of legal migration and labor migration schemes. I think very much of interest is the recent sort of study done by the how would you translate this? The Council of Experts on Migration in Germany, the Sachverständigenrat, under the leadership of Petra Bendel, which talks about a work permit based on basically a deposit which you could work on. I mean, there's sort of with a safety fund or something by people who wish to work and have opportunities to work. People mining, which is a brutal word, will be the future because we need workforce all over Europe. So I honestly also in the overall migration context, we need to remember that in a few years from now, that whole sort of rejection of migration, which is currently the case, will be transforming into that sort of, we need workforce, even in less skilled jobs as well. So I think that we also need to prepare for that future as well. And so I think building that sort of together in also the proposals we're working on here now would be very useful. And then again, I really think that NEDA can help us a lot to get the relevant also access to some of these current initiatives on connectivity, on enticing, and as well helping that interaction between different parts of Europe.
That is an awesome overview, Killian. Thank you very much for sharing that. Anyone else for closing comments before Fred? Gerard, any thoughts?
Well, I guess it's exciting to hear about everything you guys have to say, and I know, just like you know, that it will take a while until local organizations and local governments can get enough funding to promote their progressive approaches. Once they have the mindset established, I guess it's going to be a few years of piloting with the few funds that are available for it, but it'll be great to exchange practices with you guys, and I look forward to hearing from you. And I know it's not particularly inspired ending comment, besides the fact that the willingness to exchange is there, and it's awesome what you're trying to do, and I know it's not easy in Lesvos. So in that sense, I wish you all the best, and also a good weekend.
Thank you very much, Fred.
Thank you, Fred.
I hope that we see you in Lesvos for the summer thing, and otherwise my name, and that's a discussion I definitely want to have with Nina and see how we could possibly go and present something together there, if that's going to happen. Nina, some thoughts from you? Gerard?
Yeah. I had to unmute. Yeah, it was really amazing to hear what possibilities and solutions can we find. I think Lesvos can be really that testing location that many innovative ideas and many innovative solutions can be tested and implemented, and the knowledge can be transferred then throughout Europe with a very strong experience that you will get on the spot in your island. So I think that we have to go on. We have to send a clear message to Europe, and we have to start to build on one hand that social element, but on the other hand technology based, because it is really enabler and facilitator for the future and for the future activities, also for social economies as well as other stakeholders of the society. So it would be from me. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you very much, Nina. Thank you very much for that wrap up. Gerard?
I totally agree with Kilian, and I'm looking forward to the next steps and finally to the Lesvos moonshot.
Beautiful. Henry, can you just come alive there? We haven't seen you at all. You've been, it's from our side. Arthur, are you going to make a short presentation? I don't want to keep the rest of the people, but yeah, Arthur, do you want to make a presentation? Have you got the presentation to make?
We can, yeah, I can make a very short one, and then we can do closing session.
Okay. All right. Well, guys, it's been an absolutely incredible discussion the whole day, in fact. Thank you very much for all of you for your participation and your time, but your being connected, you're being present to these concepts and these ideas that we're discussing. It's been almost surreal, to be honest, to think that the discussions that we're actually having, and I really get the sense that we're going to actually do it. That's the sense I'm getting from this, and it's really inspiring. And thank you very much for coming up with all your amazing ideas and all your experience to be able to help shape how this is going to look. We still don't know, but for us to be able to shape this together is really exciting. So thank you very much to everyone for your participation here.
Same to you. Thank you.
Thank you too. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Well, my pleasure.
Bye, guys. And feel free to connect on LinkedIn. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Fred, for being in contact.
Thank you, guys, for your participation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Have a good weekend as well.
Arthur, you're going to present?
Yeah, I just don't know how to. Do you get it?
You press on the middle where it says share screen, and then you
Yes.
upload the document.
No, what?
Upload the document.
That's what I've been trying to do, but
you see if I've.
do you see it?
I'm going to see if I've got it. I don't have it on this computer, unfortunately. So while you're looking for it, I'm going to upload this quickly. And just to say, ooh, wait, what did I do? No, hold on a second. It's not what I wanted to upload. I'll stop sharing because I don't know what I did. Well, I don't know. Maybe you can just talk about it then without the presentation.
Okay, sure. So basically, yes, Changemakers Lab vision is to first raise awareness about all marginalized people, and also to trying to change perception to reality. And another vision is to try to make and to embrace challenges, humanitarian and social challenging, through social tech entrepreneurship, and taking a closer look at Lesvos as being one of a tech hub and a best practices place for and an example for Europe. As Changemakers Lab would ideally like to hold bi-weekly discussions about going forward with raising awareness about embracing technologies with a core focus on humanity and ethics, and yes, keep inviting individuals who are inspiring from all kind of backgrounds. Another goal is to make a summer school on Lesvos this summer, of course, to try to gather best startup and to try to gather best practices through the island, and so to implement it with locals and with newcomers and all of that. Then the aim will be to trying to keep emphasizing on Lesvos as a great potential island of best practices, and trying to advocate it in Mannheim in November, trying to make Lesvos as the next social economy capital. And finally, towards building and advocating for social tech entrepreneurships, it will be to trying to build an ecosystem of co-working spaces through actually a tour through Europe, visiting and strengthening networks in between co-working spaces as a place where integration and inclusive economy can actually flourish. It will be through a tour with actually the people who made the Birds of Freedom, and the initiator is to go through each of the co-working spaces who are partners, and trying to showcase the birds, have dialogues about all the great things that social tech entrepreneurships and emancipation of marginalized communities can do. And that will be our goal, kind of like a 22 days Europe tour, showcasing the birds, having dialogues, and strengthening partnership with co-working spaces. On that note, that's a really quick presentation of Changemakers Lab, short vision and long vision, and it's still in progress. So thank you for listening. And Vasily, if you want to add something, please. And
no, thank you. I think thank you very much for the presentation. I think the discussion that we had today covered a lot of that and gave it a lot more meat, if you like, and the people with whom we can take and actually make this happen. Because at the end of the day, it's about people that are committed to a cause, and this is what is required. Just because you mentioned the birds, and I mentioned them earlier, it's an art project. There's two of them, but Ferniki Tsambarli is the inspiration behind it. She couldn't, unfortunately, join us today, but we want to take those birds across Europe, and as an art project made from recycled life jackets. So it represents a circular economy, and we're also celebrating Lesvos that has the bird watching. So, and birds, of course, represent love, peace, freedom. And we want to be able to have these dialogues with those birds. And the other project with the birds that Ferniki has done is there were 652,000 locals and refugees that came through Lesvos. So they made 326 locals and 326, well, my numbers are confused. Anyway, came together, that's right, to make these birds out of recycled plastic bottles. And this is a project that Nikki wants to be able to showcase in Brussels, so we can continue dialogues around these things. But that's basically that for everything we've spoken about. I just want to say a big thank you again to everyone that participated, and to Arthur and Henry. You guys have been unbelievable. The effort and the work that you guys have put in this last week, thank you very much. It's been completely inspiring. And this is, I mean, I've never, just for those listening, I've never met in person Arthur or Henry. We've had a couple of calls, and I can't believe, it's like I've known these guys all my life. They've been supporting non-stop to be able to put this together, because it's the first time we're online. So we said, let's do it and do the best we can. So thank you to both of you, and to Marino for all the help. It's been really amazing. And to every single person, there's a lot of people that have contributed in big ways for us to be where we are today. So thank you to everyone that has made this journey possible. And I would also just like to take a quick moment to say a big thank you to my family for all the love and the support that they've been giving to me, to also be able to allow me to be here. And I'm wishing my mom a special happy birthday for tomorrow. And I hope I haven't left anything out, but thank you very much to everyone. And we've got so many exciting initiatives to take forward. So guys, I know we said we're going to take a few days off, but I don't know. I think with these exciting projects that we've discussed and the things we need to get done, I'm super excited to get back to the drawing board, to be able to give the feedback of this. We'll be giving a feedback with Arthur's help and Henry about the summit and about how we can go forward. So please, in terms of what we've mentioned, anyone who's interested in wanting to help and support, please let us know. And I just want to say again, a special thank you to the people of Lesvos. My thoughts are with them. Really, it's we need the European society to be able to show solidarity to the local people, and show support, and also, of course, to the asylum seekers who are the situation of how they're sitting there in the camps with all that energy that they want to put out into do good and to create a better life. I hope that we can welcome you to Lesvos, so you can meet for yourself some of these inspiring people, and that we can together inspire a better future for all. So thank you very much. I don't know if anyone else has got something to say, please share with us. But it's been really a pleasure and an honor, and I sincerely thank every single person that participated and made this such an amazing and incredible summit. Able to show solidarity to the local people.
For my part, thank you thank you to Henry, to Vasily, to Marino for your help. And I'm very glad we could hold this summit, and thank you on my part, to our speakers, Israel NB, Jaral Barekzai, Christina Shatsidaki, Peter Musaferiadis, Sonia Nenzik, and Douglas Herman, Christos Lazaredis, Rudi Kimpioka, Dimitrios Piliopoulos, Nena Dokuzov, Kilian Kleinschmidt, Saverio Romeo, Gerard Woffer, Frederick Kastner, Parwano Amiri. And actually, I would like to tell one more time a sentence that Parwana has written, in which I think it's, I find it very, very inspiring. She says at the end of her personal bios, Butterflies solidarity will break the chains of silence and will win. So thank you, Parwana, for this sentence. For my part, it's all I wanted to say. Thank you again.
Very much. Before we switch off, can I ask, have you got the video that Rudy sent about their concert? Do any of you have it, and can we play that as, you know, as the closing? Are you guys familiar with the dance video? Sorry, I didn't.
Oh, I don't know if I receive it.
Okay. Well,
Where should I send it?
I think this is it. Let me just see. I hope I'm not putting something funny on. No.
A refugee, well, is poor, uneducated, troublemaker, tourism, a person who's always in need, and a person who doesn't know about social media and smartphones. I don't know, some people they think refugees come from where? Anyway, just want to say that be a refugee. I crossed the sea. I was in the prison. I get hard and drunk. I slept in different places with my family. I worked a lot. And I met a lot of crazy people. And I lived through 7 different countries. And that's me every time I have to struggle with school, being the new child or the new kid. Anyway, culture, new language, and new of everything, new. Anyway, so being through all of these things makes me realize that being a refugee makes me strong and amazing and a patient and a fighter and a smart girl. And I just want to tell you that stop, look to refugees down like they are nothing. Because being a refugee is not easy thing at all. And I learned that. So that's it. I hope it was short and easy to get. Please stop look us down. We just want to live and to have the normal life that you have. Because not everyone can have normal life.
Thanks, guys. That was from Lubna again. And I'm going to try again to play this. No, it's not this. Sorry. My last chance. No. Okay, I can't seem to get that video from Rudy. So Rudy, sorry for that. Oh, hold on. Sorry. Can you see that or not?
Yes.
You can see it?
Yes.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, fantastic. So I'm going to play this. So thanks to everyone. We look forward to meeting you on Lesvos and in Mannheim, hopefully. So thank you very much for joining us. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Do I turn it off?
Yes.
Yes. Ouais, j'éteins.
Ouais, c'est bon, c'est terminé. Merci.
Thanks again, guys.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Henry and Arthur, thank you, guys.
Welcome. It's a pleasure. Do I turn it off?
Yes, yes. Thank you very much.
Thanks to all of you. Bye.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.